Welcome back, my fellow degenerate watch addicts. I've got a fairly unknown watch for you today. This one is the Super Precision from Zeno. Personally, I think this watch is either so-so or complete trash, depending on which price you paid for it. When I was first introduced to this watch, the price tag was just north of $700. A young, naive watch collector might be fooled into thinking there must be a lot of quality because of the high price tag. They'd be wrong. I was able to buy mine brand new from Joma Shop at around $350, which is still high, but I think it's acceptable. I justified that price because it has a new old stock AS5602 movement. And just by virtue of me being a horological basic bitch, I found value in it. I'm saying this now, do not take my word on its value, because you can get way more watch for $350. The Super Precision comes with a mineral crystal, a screw-down crown, a screw-down case back, and a water resistance rating of 50 meters. The bracelet is about as bare bones as you can get, and the overall fit and finish of this watch is on par with a $100 Invicta Pro Diver. That's not a knock on the Pro Diver, but rather a knock on the price tag of the Zeno. As an illogical man, the only driving force for me to add this watch into my collection is number one, it looks damn good, and number two, I like the fact that it has a AS movement. What's so special about that movement? Like I said earlier, it's new old stock. So in a way, it's a time machine to the earlier days of watchmaking. It's also a direct connection to Adolf Schild, and the history of the Schild family is very horologically significant, and may play a factor into why this technically unimpressive movement still means something to a collector today. And because I have fuck all going on right now, I'm going to spend the next half hour explaining that history. Adolf Schild, and really the entirety of the Schild family, is essentially the genesis of the entire mainstream Swiss watch industry as we know it today. And truth be told, the story begins before Adolf Schild's watchmaking apprenticeship. In 1856, when young Adolf was 12 years old, in the blossoming city of Grenchen, Switzerland, his older brother Urs Schild joined forces with Dr. Joseph Girard to create the Dr. Girard and Schild Ebosch Movement Factory. What is an Ebosch Movement Factory, you ask? It's a factory that produces unbranded watch movements, parts, etc., that are then sold to various companies to be assembled, finished, and branded at a later date. This is a very common practice now, with virtually every mainstream watch company using this process. Think about any company that has a funky movement name, but it's actually just based off of a Salida SW200 or ETA 2824. Oris, Bell & Ross, every other Swiss shitter. And while it's a very common practice now, there was still much room for this business to grow in the 19th century. You see, before Dr. Girard and Urs Schild, the Swiss used an establishage system, or establishment system, wherein individual watchmaking houses would make specific parts. These houses would send their parts to a central point, and it was there where the individual components would be put together to make a complete watch. The person assembling these parts was known as an establisseur. It was such an effective division of labor that by the end of the 19th century, the Swiss beat their competition 10-1. Dr. Girard and Urs saw an opportunity to evolve the establishage system, and instead of outsourcing the labor to different houses, they decided to make fully complete movements and sell them directly to watch brands, cutting out the establisseur in the process. This proved to be very successful, and the power duo continued this up until Dr. Girard's retirement in 1866. It was around this time that Adolf Schild came into the picture as an apprentice under his older brother, taking up Dr. Girard's torch. To reflect the change in management, Urs changed the company's name to this. which stands for Precision Watches Factory Brothers Shield. Urs also had two sons, Max and Theodore, that entered into the family business, of whom he gave partial ownership of the company upon his passing in 1888. This seems to have been a point of contention for Adolf, whether it was resentment for not receiving full ownership of the company, creative differences, or conflicting visions. Adolf broke away from his brother's company in 1896 and started his own under the name A Schild Société Anonyme. A Schild became one of Switzerland's most prominent Ebosch movement makers, so at least from a historical perspective, breaking away from his nephews was a good decision on his part. You're probably thinking that his nephews were a pair of sniveling young brats that were dumb, spoiled kids, but wouldn't you know it, they worked together to create the watch company officially named Eterna in 1905. Sound familiar? We could end here, and it would be clear to see just how monumentally impactful the Schild family was to the watch community. But let's delve just a little bit more. I promise it's almost over. They say necessity is the mother of invention, and in this case we can say crisis is the mother of mergers. Two crises in the last century are of key importance to the watch industry. First, the economic crisis prior to the World Wars caused A Schild and Eterna to merge with other watch groups, essentially creating the ASUAG and SSIH groups respectively. This was a defensive measure to protect the Swiss watch industry against financial ruin and increasing competition from surrounding countries. The next crisis is one we are all familiar with, the Quartz Crisis. The quartz domination of the watch industry in the 70s caused the Swiss watch exports to cut in half in a matter of 6 years. By 1983, both the ASUAG and SSIH groups were on the verge of bankruptcy. Out of pure desperation, ASUAG and SSIH brought on board a management consulting guru, Nicholas Hayek, to help dig them out of the hole they found themselves in. Hayek's solution was simple. Merge ASUAG and SSIH into one supergroup under the name SMH. Turns out Hayek was a guru after all, because SMH is the group that you all know today as Swatch. Every brand that we enjoy now, from Eda to Value to Omega, Longines, Tissot, Rado, Hamilton, and etc. are because of these mergers, which only happened because 100 years ago there was some beef within the Schild family. How ironic is it that one of the only reasons why mechanical watches continue to exist is because a couple of watch enthusiasts way back when were a bunch of divas. Some things never change. So, long story short, that's why I think this shitty watch with a shitty old movement might mean something to you if you wanted to buy one. Because outside of its ties to Adolf Schild and all that it implies, there's not much else going on with the Zeno Super Precision. It does look very good, I'll give it that. But not every watch has to make sense to me. Whether you like it or not, heritage and history is important and is reason enough alone to add a watch to the collection. But that's about all I have for now. Talk about going off on a tangent. The lengths I'll go to try and convince people I'll never meet why I bought a watch is astonishing. Hopefully that was somewhat entertaining for you. If you made it this far, a like and subscribe is appreciated. Thanks for watching and stay classy. I know I won't.